Ladies and gentlemen, I am accompanied by TJ Combo.
This guy, and I'm sitting next to Adam Ronin.
And the crowd goes wild. So we are here to do a review of the PDP Mirror's Edge Xbox One controller.
That is right.
And we played it for a while. We have thoughts. Let's start with cosmetics.
Right. So, if you are a huge fan of Mirror's Edge and you're like, I want Mirror's Edge.
I know there's dozens of us.
Right. Yeah. All 10 of you out there. I know you're going to want Mirror's Edge posters, right? You're going to want Mirror's Edge fake tattoos for your face. You're going to want your controller to have some of that branding. Mm-hmm. This accomplishes that.
Yep. It's kind of a sexy looking controller.
Right. So the graphics on it are okay. The only thing I would say was a downside is that even right out of the packaging, like the corner was kind of chipped, almost like this was like painted or printed on in some way, and it's kind of a little bit rough looking around the edges. That's like down at the bottom of the horn, so you're not really ever going to see that. But that was just like, you pull something out of the box and you're like, oh.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't notice it. Like, that is a kind of a no. Mm-hmm. But for me, I totally would have overlooked it. I'm like, that's no big deal to me. So it really just depends on your level of analness, I guess.
And if I was playing with this and I opened it up and started to play, I might not notice that. But we're in a room with bright lights, very specifically analyzing the controller. So obviously, like, we're looking a little bit closer than you might be.
Right. And so now someone might say, well, how is this different than a regular? How is this different than the controller I already have? Mm-hmm. That's a good question. It's not really.
Here's some small things.
There's some small things. So there's a button here that is very specific to this controller.
The PDP audio button.
Yes. This will control, because your D-pad doubles as a regular game D-pad and your audio controllers, because some of you know the old Xbox One controllers, you had to have the adapter for your headphones and it was cumbersome and dumb. Then they updated it so you can just plug your headset right in.
With your 3.5 millimeter jack.
That's right. This has the 3.5 millimeter jack. If you hold this down, this activates your audio buttons. Volume up, volume down, game volume up, chat volume up. If you double tap it, mutes, so on and so forth.
Which is really cool, because like if you're playing and somebody's yelling at you from the other room, you can just click, go back and
it's in a convenient place. It's not bad. It's cool. Mm-hmm. And it works fine. We tested it.
Like my current headphones though, like it's like in line in the wiring, and like I have to like find it in my beard to like try to mute.
So really here,
I just want to talk to somebody.
You're just playing. You're like, Ma, can I have more Cheetos?
Yep.
And then go back in it.
Go right back to
Super convenient.
Back to your parkour adventures.
So really, that said, that's the only thing different about the controller. It's a wired controller.
It is wired, yes. So it does not have any battery compartment. So just throw that out. But one thing I would like to say is that let's say this wasn't even part of the equation, right? But I just had this. This is a really awesome cable.
Yeah, it is.
So it's not really breakaway. Yeah. It's it's like the mini USB on one side, and then it's got your normal USB on the other. Dual for rules, as you kids seem to love these days.
Which would also double as a charging if you had the rechargeable for your other controllers.
Exactly.
You could plug that in. And
you could plug in your cell phone, 10 feet away or whatever. But it's not the longest cord. We have seen longer cords in a lot of our reviews. Hori typically has like incredibly long cords, but you can see here, this is like a dual wingspan of a gigantic man. Right? That's me. Yeah. But the cable itself is super cool. I was a big fan of this. This is quality. It's really thick, and it's going to take some abuse. But because it's so thick, when it's plugged in the controller, it does kind of like that, right? It sticks out a little bit. So I'm going to set this aside for the remainder of the review. Just know what that looks like.
And it's got an interesting little port here, so it kind of protects it from maybe snapping off or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that I kind of like that. The only thing if we can get into maybe some of the neggies here. Mm-hmm. So this is an interesting feeling material. It's not quite matte, not quite smooth.
This is gonna be a preference thing for sure.
Yeah, I don't happen to mind it. Gordy did not like it. I don't think you're a big fan of it.
So let me kind of explain. So our wonderful producer Gordy gave a really great reference. It said it almost feels like you have chalk on your fingers, right?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, it feels kind of chalky. It's very smooth. I don't know how well it would hold up to like a sweaty hand experience.
Which would be
like this guy here, Johnny Wet Hands, they call him. But I didn't mind this too much. My problem came with the difference in texture between this
and the black.
Yes,
the black is a very
sticky
plastic.
Sticky, shiny plastic. So this is very soft and smooth, right? That feels great.
Yeah, I don't
but
mind
then,
it.
like on the backside, like when your thumb and your hands wrap around down here, like you can instantly feel like a tackiness to it. So it's not going to slip out of your hands, which is great, even though this is nice and slick on the top. But it's definitely going to be a preference thing. I think there's going to be some people who are going to hold this and be like, ooh, I'm not feeling one or the other or the combination.
For sure.
Some people might love it and wish that all controllers had that finish.
Yeah, I don't mind it. The chalky analogy is interesting because it makes me think of parkour people who chalk up their hands so they can grab it. So maybe it's an immersion thing for Mirror's Edge, you know?
It's like rock climber right now, yeah.
Here's the thing. So, is this a workable controller? Yes, it is. It works fine. It's really on par with your stock 360 Xbox One controller.
Yeah, and we tested it on fighting games. We tested it in shooters. We tested it across the platform to make sure it works in all scenarios.
And it works fine. There's no latency in the buttons. It works just as is intended. Here's the thing. Do you need it? Is it worth the $60? Because really, when you set it all aside, this controller to me is two things. One, it's just a cosmetic collectible because it's pretty, it's Mirror's Edge themed,
right?
But it is no different than the controller you already have if you have an Xbox One because it comes with a controller that's just as good. It also doubles as a pretty fantastic sex toy, if I may be so bold. The vibrations in this...
It is the craziest vibration I've ever felt in a controller, and it's incredibly consistent.
It's so the Xbox One is built in with numerous motors that the stock controller, mind you, that's very like, can go
all kinds of different levels, yeah.
And
make you kind of feel like, oh no, the world's shaking. Oh no, there's an earthquake.
Now we didn't pop it open, so we don't know the specifics of the motors, but it seems like there's one speed to this, and that's just.
It's like a back massager, or this thing's hidden in your mom's underwear drawer.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. That it feels weird because like you're playing a game and all of a sudden it was just like.
Yeah, and it's not like a subtle thing. It's like you feel like.
And it was consistent the whole time. There's no change in speed. It was a very unique experience. Let's say
it's super jarring, and that actually turns me off to the controller because I like vibrations and I want them to be immersive. But when it's just like if I die or something and the controller's like. It's like shooting a machine gun all without being prepared.
And now they use that as a feature for their haptic feedback as well. So like when you turn off the system and you hold the Xbox button, it just like and it is like ew. It's just like this weird feeling in your.
It's like your controller farts in your hand.
Yeah, and it's like I was like that felt kind of awkward. But also in reference to that, the Xbox button actually doesn't light up. There's a tiny light right above that indicates that the controller is on and in use. Which is weird because it's kind of something we've grown accustomed to seeing.
Yeah,
is a full lit up button on Xbox.
I know some people don't like it because it's distracting, but I like it. It looks sexy on the controllers.
Yeah, it would have been a nice little added feature there. Overall, because it doesn't really offer anything that a normal controller doesn't have, you might look at another element like price.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe if this guy's a lot cheaper, that would be a good alternative. So you're buying an Xbox controller.
Yeah, if this was like $20, $25, it's super cool to have because it is very cosmetically appealing. And if you're a Mirror's Edge fan,
if you're a Mirror's Edge, $35.
It'd be really cool to have next to your Xbox, next to your Faith figures or whatever statues you might have. But for $60, you're better off with what you already have that came with your system. Now, that said, the last PDP controller that we reviewed, it much better than the Mortal Kombat PDP controller.
That controller was completely awful.
Yeah, so this is
blown away. They still make it. It was not competitive. It didn't give a competitive advantage in any way. And that's one other point that we wanted to make with this. Like for example, like when I play fighting games, I purposely have a fight stick because I feel like it does give me a competitive edge over a regular controller, right? This does not give you any kind of competitive edge in terms of playing Mirror's Edge. So if you're like, I'm Mirror's Edge, I want to be better at it, your regular controller is going to do just fine. You don't have to talk mom into spend another $60, right? Like this is just going to be okay with the one you came with your system. So,
yeah, absolutely. And so it works as intended, but it's doesn't wow you, doesn't yet give you anything you don't need. So I say pass unless there's a pretty incredible sale going on. Or if you are diehard and you have to have it, sure, it's fine. It doesn't suck, but I don't need it. And I'm a big Mirror's Edge fan.
Yeah, I am not a big Mirror's Edge fan. I like it, but I'm not like in love with the franchise. I do like the audio features because of my controller. I still have the original with the old adapter on there, so I would love to have something like this just built in. I like it.
Yeah, it's
a
cool.
very convenient little feature that they approached. I don't mind the softness here. I do mind the tackiness of the shiny portion here.
Yeah, I don't like the tackiness, but that might be something that with wear and tear.
It could eventually wear off, yeah, and hopefully that would be something that does happen. I can't tell you that these triggers they're awful. I could not stand these trigger buttons. This would have been the reason I pass on this controller almost 100%. They have a weird plasticky rubbing sound. They're not super springy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just not in love with them.
Well, and one other thing I don't like is it feels like I said in the unboxing, it feels like a PlayStation 4 controller in terms of weight. I don't like my controllers to be light. That's actually light. My biggest gripe with the PlayStation, the DualShock 4, is because it's super light, just feels flimsy. I like the weight of the Xbox controllers. It makes them feel, I don't know, like you've got...
Man, a little girthy. Yeah.
Girthy, and it's worth the $60. This feels like, feels like a McDonald's toy.
If you're going to swing a sledgehammer, make it a real one.
That's right.
I dig that. So this is not a purchase for me.
Yeah.
I can say that. Again, if you are a big Mirror's Edge fan, this is a purchase for you. I could see you buying something like this and enjoying the experience. Your battery will never die.
That's true.
Right? You're playing Mirror's Edge for days on end. You don't have to worry about replacing the battery or charging that up.
Yep.
If you had to charge your other controller, you could use this wonderful cord that comes with it.
It's true.
Or you could plug in your phone, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have an Android.
It does work with any 3.5 standard headphone set. So we tested it with a set of Sennheiser, so you could get really great audio quality if you wanted to.
Yeah,
that's a bonus. So I don't want to knock it too hard because it does function the way that they intended, and I don't feel that the first PDP product that we reviewed did function.
No, that was a pile of garbage.
I thought it was awful.
Garbage.
So this I don't want to bash too much. I just don't see a need for it, even as a Mirror's Edge fan.
Yeah.
So
samesies. But if you do pick it up, we'd love to know what you think. These, of course, are our Twitters. Or you can hit us up in the comments below. And, of course, for more content, more reviews, more unboxings, more Tim's beard, more Gordy-isms, subscribe. Tell them what's up, Gordy.
Subscribe. Sup.
Sup.
That's all I said. Thank you for coming out.